All right, today we are diving deep into a theory that claims to connect the dots between ancient spiritual dramas and the geopolitical conflicts we see today. It's a huge and, a really controversial idea that tries to explain where all human conflict actually comes from.
So, the theory starts by asking one of the biggest questions you can possibly ask. What's the real root of all the fighting? And the answer it gives isn't some vague philosophy. No, it traces everything back to a single dramatic moment in time. Just so we're all on the same page here, our goal is simply to explain the arguments of this particular theory exactly as it's presented in the source material. We're just going to use these slides to walk through its logic from its cosmic origins all the way to its claims about the modern world.
Okay, so this theory doesn't even start on Earth. It actually begins way before that, with a cosmic event that it claims literally set the stage for an eternal war between two opposing sides.
So the starting point, the ground zero for this whole thing, is the Quranic story of Iblis. He's described as a jinn, a powerful being who was with the angels. God creates the first human, Adam, and commands everyone to bow, and they all do, except for Iblis. According to this theory, that one moment of refusal is when an eternal war was officially declared. And the theory gets really specific about why he refused. It boils it all down to two core emotions: pride, because Iblis saw himself as fundamentally better, and envy, because he couldn't stand Adam's favorite status. The speaker argues these aren't just character flaws, they are the very building blocks of the entire conflict to come.
And just like that, with one act of defiance, all of creation is split right down the middle. You've got the party of God on one side, and on the other, the party of Satan, with Iblis now actively trying to recruit followers from both the spirit world and, of course, from humanity.
So you might be wondering, how does a cosmic battle like that actually show up in human history? Well, the theory claims it happens through human agents, and it zeroes in on one particular community to make its case.
The speaker alleges that the Jewish people came to see themselves as inherently superior. He uses this quote to make his point, claiming this kind of thinking positioned them, within his theory, as enemies to the rest of humanity. Now, according to the source, this long history of what he calls rebellion all comes to a head with the rejection of Jesus. The alleged plot to have him crucified is presented as the absolute peak of their defiance, earning them the label those who have earned God's wrath inside this framework. The theory then moves forward in time, presenting the arrival of the Prophet Muhammad in the city of Medina as another make-or-break moment. What the speaker basically calls a final chance for this community to change its ways. And here is where the theory ties everything back to the very beginning. The speaker argues that the Jewish tribes in Medina refused to accept the Prophet Muhammad simply because he wasn't one of them. In his view, this was the exact same pride and envy that Iblis showed, just playing out again on a human scale. See, when the Prophet first got to Medina, he set up a mutual defense agreement with all the different groups there, including the Jewish tribes. The speaker frames the conflicts that followed as a direct result of these tribes allegedly betraying that very pact again and again.
This timeline really just lays out the escalating consequences, as presented by the speaker. So after the Battle of Badr, the Banu Qaynuqa tribe was expelled. After the Battle of Uhud, it was the Banu Nadir. And then finally, after the Battle of the Trench, a judgment was made regarding the Banu Qurayza, which basically ended the major conflicts inside Medina.
All right, so from here, the theory zooms way out. The speaker argues that this ancient conflict didn't just end in the 7th century. Oh no, he claims it went underground and transformed into this massive long-term global conspiracy that has been shaping world history ever since. The theory then points to what it calls a hidden hand behind some huge world events. It claims this group secretly started the Sunni-Shia split, created Protestantism to get around the church's ban on usury or lending money at interest, and that they engineered the fall of the Ottoman Empire, all paving the way for the creation of Israel.
So, from all these historical claims, the theory then takes its most dramatic leap of all, connecting this ancient conflict to one of the most defining moments of our lifetime.
Right here, the speaker makes the explicit and, let's be very clear, completely unfounded claim that the 9/11 attacks were actually a false flag operation run by Israel. The alleged goal? To intimidate the U.S. and trick it into fighting wars against Israel's enemies in the Muslim world. So when you step back and look at the whole thing, what the speaker has presented is basically a grand unified theory of conflict. He's arguing that this one single thread, this ancient cosmic enmity, runs all the way from the story of Iblis, through the rise and fall of empires, right up to the events that are shaping our news headlines today. and he concludes by pointing to what he sees as prophecies of one last final battle. He says the Gulf War was just the opening act, and that a great battle is coming, which he directly equates with the biblical Armageddon. He sees it as the final chapter in this war that's been going on for thousands of years.
And that brings us to the end of this explainer. You know, understanding these big, overarching historical theories, regardless of what you think of them, is so important, because these are the kinds of stories that can literally shape entire ideologies and drive world events. It kind of leaves you with a big question, doesn't it? How much of our present is really being defined by the stories we choose to tell about our past?